Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. And if there's like a ratio of age to excellence of player, this guy is the winner in that because with Trey Hensley, he's a young guy. He doesn't play any wrong notes, and I don't even know how he plays so well. You'd think he's been playing 50 years, but he hasn't. But he's a hell of a great player, and I want to get into his background. A couple of quick announcements. I want to thank Jason Henke for connecting us, and also make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe and subscribe to the audio and the YouTube channel. And if you're on YouTube watching us, hit the subscribe button and the bell on the right. All righty, talk about Trey. Started playing guitar at age 10. He quickly took the bluegrass world by storm at age 10, and he performed at the Grand Ole Opry when he was 11. Since then, he's played with Marty Stuart, Earl Scruggs, Johnny and June Carter Cash, Charlie Daniels, Steve Wariner, who we had here on the show, the Oak Ridge Boys, Ricky Skaggs, Blue Highway, and we had Rob Ickes, of course, a few weeks back, J.D. Crowe, as well as others. He's opened shows for Marty Stuart, President George W. Bush, former First Lady Laura Bush, Dick Cheney, Charlie Daniels, Peter Frampton, Alabama frontman Randy Owen, Sara Evans, and others. In the fall of 2012, this is a really good story, and if you want to hear it, listen to Rob Ickes' interview because he told it. It was a really nice story. So Trey, I think what was the deal? They needed a vocalist, and their guy wasn't around. So like the producer, what was the engineer said, "Hey, you want to let Trey sing?"
Exactly, yeah. There's a friend of mine that ran the studio, and so they were needing just a scratch vocal. They were going to get rid of it, and they were going to send it to another artist to do the vocal. And so I just came in, and sang it right behind the engineer. They set up a mic, and yeah, I didn't really think much of it. I loved the band and loved the song, but I knew going into it, it was just going to be a scratch vocal. And then a couple weeks later, they gave me a call and said they were going to keep it on the record. So that was pretty cool.
And they loved it. They didn't they were like, "Oh my God, who's this guy?" And then so the album by Blue Highway was called The Game. It was released in January 2014, and Trey was the special guest on that song, My Last Day in the Mine. In the summer of just before that, Trey had relocated to Nashville, and he started playing on a regular basis with Rob Ickes from Blue Highway. And Rob is the 15-time Dobro Player of the Year. Rob and Trey started working together. They had great vibes, and then now they are like really, really have their own thing. They've got 3 records out, and they're burning it up. They've played with Tommy Emmanuel, Taj Mahal, David Grisman, Jorma Kaukonen and Hot Tuna, Luther Dickinson, Molly Tuttle, and loads of other people. Again, they released 3 albums: Before the Sun Goes Down, The Country Blues, and last year's World Full of Blues, which is a great record. You ought to check it out. Dude, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Hey, thank you, Craig, man. Love the show. So I'm thrilled to be on here today.
Oh man, likewise, mutual. All right. So how did you you started playing at 10, I assume with a bluegrass background, you had like a family band in a local community bluegrass scene?
Well, so my family didn't play at all.
Oh,
My
wow.
family really isn't musical at all. So my dad, he played banjo when I was a kid, but he didn't really, do much with it. I remember one day he just kind of put it in the case and he sold it, in the newspaper, and it was gone, and so he took lessons for a long time, and he really wanted to play, but he just, didn't get very far with it. And I remember he was good at it, but for some reason, just, I don't know if he didn't like it. But so anyway, I was around music, but it wasn't, super huge. But my parents took me to a bluegrass festival when I was 9, and 2 of the people performing there were Jimmy Martin and Charlie Waller, who are giants in the bluegrass world, and they both play guitar. And it was kind of like a 1-2 punch. It's like one of them came on first, and then I think Charlie Waller ended the show. And he was more of he played more notes and did some lead stuff. Jimmy was more of a rhythm guy, and but that set me on fire, man. I wanted a guitar, and I pretty much started playing as soon as I got one. My parents, there was a family friend that gave me an old Yamaha FG 180, and so I started playing that, and yeah, that was it. Kind of started quick.
That's why. Where was this festival that you went to?
So it was in East Tennessee. It was yeah, it was, I don't even know. I think it was in Elizabethton, Tennessee, just like a big open field. But so the years that I went were the last years of it. It had been going on since the 70s. But the name of the festival was Slagle's Pasture. And it was literally just a big pasture field, that they had put a stage in the middle of. And it was great, man. The next year after that, I got to go back and I played a song with Charlie Waller, which was cool. That was kind of the, full circle moment. The guy that got me into playing guitar, I got to play a song with him and ended up, getting to hang with him a couple times after that, which was always amazing. And playing, he had this really famous guitar in the bluegrass world, it's like I think it was a D45, but, it had his name down the neck of it and had a really unusual pick guard as the bluegrass and country guys did. And I got to play that in his bus, and he was super cool. But that festival kind of spawned it all,
How did you get to play at? Sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
No. It was just that festival seemed to spawn a bunch of pickers in that region.
Who else came out of that festival?
East Tennessee, man, it's big, because they've got the East Tennessee State University Bluegrass program. So between that and some of the festivals,
I didn't know that.
It's yeah, man, it's huge out there. People kind of go. It's the only place you can get a degree in bluegrass. So a master's degree in bluegrass studies.
How did you get to play? Well, a couple of questions. Number one, to get to the point where you're playing a festival, I don't care how old you are, even if they cut you some slack because you're 11 at that time or whatever, man, how much, I would assume you did nothing but play guitar that year.
It was a lot, man. I always tell it that I think I started taking lessons on Monday or Tuesday, and I did my first show on Saturday. And,
wow.
Took guitar breaks on songs, and, it was quick, and I just kind of started. So I did take like 5 lessons before I started taking my main guitar lessons. This guy out in Jonesboro, Tennessee had given me my, GCD, AE, kind of chords, and then taught me Wildwood Flower. And then he passed me on to this other guy, GC Matlock in Kingsport, who was kind of he taught a lot of people out in East Tennessee, a great guitar player. And it was to the point where I was learning. I'd learn a song, and then I'd call him up an hour after the lesson and be like, okay, I've got this one down. Can you teach me something over the phone? And it would just happen quick. I was just obsessed with it. And I played all the time,
Wow.
I still do.
Do you, you obviously have to be super driven, and to have that at such a young age is a pretty good gift. Where do you think that came from, or what did you get out of being so driven?
It's I think with guitar, it just kind of hit me so hard that I loved it so much that it was exciting. Everything I opened up was exciting. Every time I would play something that I was hearing on a record, it kind of got me fired up again. And so I feel like that was a big part of it. It was just something that I loved. I was really into baseball before I started playing guitar, and I had a little bit of that with baseball. I was pretty driven in that. But I feel like I learned a lot of that from my dad's a pretty driven guy, and
Okay.
just from osmosis, just watching, and so I feel like just like I say, every time I would get a little bit better at it, it just felt like I had to keep going and get a lot better at it, so and I still try to keep that. It becomes more difficult, when you've got other responsibilities or everything else, but
the thing is, though,
stick with that.
But getting better, the thing is, as you get better, like 1% improvement today is maybe like 25% improvement when you first started too. So you're looking for the little nuggets now, man.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really amazing, man. So how did you first get in the business? I know you played festivals, but you play these festivals as a kid, but how did you start getting into the business and like in your head say, okay, this is what I'm going to do?
It always felt like what I wanted to do. But I met Marty Stuart.
Hmm.
I'd been playing for 6 months at that point, and I met him at a fair out in East Tennessee. They had it's still going on, but it's, they used to have a lot of great artists out there every year. I mean, they would have a pretty eclectic lineup, especially for a fair. It was always really great, singers and musicians. And I loved Marty Stuart. And so I had this guitar case that I wanted him to sign. And so my dad got me backstage to meet Marty at this fair. And I got to play a song for him there, and he invited me up on the stage.
Holy.
And so, yeah, I played the second set, played a couple songs with him on that. And then after that is when he invited me to play the Opry. And after the Opry, it just kind of, it snowballed, as it will. But, I was still 11. But just getting to be around the people that I got to meet through that, and, even through Johnny Cash, and it just kind of, it never felt like it wasn't the right thing to do. It just always felt like that's what I was going to do. And it was hard to be in elementary school and high school during all this, but after high school, that's when I started really focusing more on it, as a business side of it. But yeah, it's always kind of felt like this was what I needed to do, or definitely what I wanted to do.
A couple of questions. You're obviously super mature for your age, but at 11, how did you? That's a lot to process for a young kid. It's seriously. How did you navigate your way through that?
It was tough. I mean, looking back on it, it was a lot tougher than what I thought it was then.
Yeah.
Because just meeting these people that were heroes then, it was weird. And then going back to school was definitely, it was just like a two-sided world. And then there was a lot of time. I mean, after the Opry, I was playing a bunch of shows throughout the year. And so, I remember my parents would just pick me up from school on Friday, and we'd drive to, wherever the next gig was, and play shows. And it really got that way in high school. It's and luckily I had a principal that he was pretty cool with it. And
That is good.
he cut me a lot of slack, because I missed a lot of days, in high school, just being out on the road playing gigs. And actually it came to the point at the end of my senior year where somebody on the school board kind of found the discrepancy, and they brought it to his attention, and they said that, I was not going to graduate pretty much, but somehow I graduated. So
Good for you, man.
everything was cool, but
Yeah.
I missed a lot of school. I mean, I always did great in school. I always had, great grades, but it was just kind of hard to maneuver it. And I don't think I realized that at the time until I was kind of looking back. And it's like, yeah, that was kind of difficult to maneuver, but it happened somewhere or the other.
Did you okay, so you said once you graduated high school, you focused on the business. Was the business aspect of the music business, was that hard to, because most musicians are like, man, I was great at guitar, I suck at the business end. But I get the sense that you don't. I get the sense that you adapted or learned it, or it wasn't out of your wheelhouse.
Yeah, it was definitely a learning curve. And I still think it is. There's still a little bit of being naive about the business side of it, that gets in the way every now and then. But I had a manager whenever I first got out of high school, or actually while I was in high school, when I did the country records. He was great. He did a lot of awesome stuff for me. A lot of the opportunities that I had came through that. And so, yeah, I mean, it like I said, it was definitely a learning curve, and it still is. But yeah, I think I've always just kind of jumped in and tried to be as mature about it as I can, even at 15 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still definitely a learning curve. I'm still, naive in a lot of ways about it. And I think every musician is to a certain extent, but it's a big part of it. I mean, that's probably 80% of it is the business side, and then you've got the 20% of getting to play music, you know.
Yeah, and the tough thing is you got to invest so much time into that 20%, you know,
Exactly.
to
Yeah,
stay on top of your game, and
really need to spend 100% of the time on the 20%
right, right.
of what you're doing. But yeah, when in all reality, you're carrying all the responsibility of the business side of it. So yeah, it's difficult for sure.
Yeah, man. Were you an only child?
I was, yeah.
Oh, okay, because I'm sitting there thinking, God, your parents. I'm thinking, man, his poor brother or sister, he had one. Everything was about you. But that's okay. Now that makes total sense, man.
Yeah, yeah. My parents, and they were
you're
great.
fortunate.
I mean, yeah, exactly. They, you know, I had a lot of gigs, and you know, I've got a 4-year-old daughter, and I've thought about that a lot. You know, there was a lot of just driving. You know, and my dad had a tough job, a very physical job. And it still does it. But he, you know, I'm sure there was a lot of times where he didn't feel like driving 200 miles, you know, after he would get off work. And there was a lot of trips to Nashville, you know, like, because East Tennessee to Nashville, it's not that far, but it's, you know, it's a good 5-hour trek.
That's a trip,
and
man.
There was a lot of times we would drive, you know, to Nashville and drive back, you know, the same day or whatever. And
wow.
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot of it. They put a lot of miles on a lot of cars, you know, to take me around and stuff.
But you have a kid now. That's why you think about that. Because my son's the same way. I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, and he, you know, in the last 4 or 5 years, he comes to me and says, "Man, I really appreciate, you know, whatever I had done, you know," because he's got a perspective now. So that's good that you see.
It changes it, man. It changes your world.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, man.
Have a kid.
Ton of work.
Yeah.
Did you have any challenges early on? And if so, what were they as far as defining your sound? And again, I cannot imagine trying to get this worked out when you're that young, but how did you figure out, like, who did you want to be musically?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, that was a big part of it, because when I first started out, you know, I just wanted to be Earl Scruggs. You know, I wanted to play guitar like Earl Scruggs played guitar. And once I kind of did that, you know, and was imitating Earl the best I could, it's like, well, what do I do now? And then I discovered Tony Rice, and that just kind of changed my entire world. And then, you know, that's the thing with bluegrass. It seems like a lot of guitar players want to be Tony. Yeah, he changed everything for everybody. Yes. And he's still the gold standard is Tony Rice, in my opinion. And so it's hard. I mean, you get caught in Tony world.
Yeah.
And
Tony world.
And so, you know, like, probably about the time that I was 15 or 16, I had a guitar playing hero of mine that gave me some good advice of, you know, you sound like Tony, but there's already a Tony, you know, find your sound. And it's like, well, that's, you know, and it changed everything for me. And I started playing electric guitar around that time too. And that totally changed the way that I played acoustic guitar.
Right.
And I feel like that was the best thing that I could have done, was pick up an electric guitar, because it totally, like I said, I mean, it makes you think different. It's almost like a totally different instrument. So it changed the way I played acoustic guitar, you know, for better or for worse, but it definitely helped me find my sound, you know.
I would imagine switching to electric was a lot easier than the other way around.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's and even then it was a little bit of a challenge, just because I've heard acoustic guitar players that pick up an electric guitar and they sound, you know, it's like they sound like they're playing bluegrass fiddle tunes on electric guitar. And so I didn't want to do that, but it takes a while to get out of that sound, or out of that habit. And well, even now, you know, it's like when Rob and I play the station in, we'll do like half electric and half acoustic. And that first song that I switched to the electric, I feel like I'm going to rip the neck off of it. You know?
Oh, because you're still in bluegrass world.
Exactly. Yeah. And just, you know, I play with 13 gauge strings and high action on an acoustic guitar.
Oh my God.
And then I switched to 10s and, you know, not super low, but pretty low action on electric.
Sure.
and a lot lighter touch. And so it's yeah, it's a totally different thing. And there was some adjustments that I had to make because I mean, I pretty much switched to only electric guitar for 5 or 6 years, and then when I came back to acoustic, there was that crap. What am I going to do with these huge strings at this point?
13s.
So,
yeah, man, that's
yeah.
wow.
But that was one of the things that I practiced hard on. Was just sitting around and learning how to bend 13 gauge strings.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's. But that was one of the best things I feel like that I can attribute to whatever my sound is, was picking up an electric guitar and kind of learning a different style.
I think I had this question later, but I want to ask you now. How did you get outside of practice? How did you get so good? I mean, you don't play any bad notes. I mean, it's so clean. I mean, it's that it's. I mean, it's so freaking clean. I mean, it's amazing.
Oh man, I mean, I appreciate that. That was one of those things that I just always had a conscious thing whenever I was practicing was cleanness, and I think I don't know where it came, if it came from, the guy that gave me my first lessons. I just, it just always would bug me when I would play a song, and I could play, I'd play it fast, but it wouldn't be clean. And I've heard a lot of guitar players that will just go with that, and run with it, and it'll be kind of, might be on the sloppier side, but it's fast. And I don't know, it always bugged me when I would make a mistake. And so even now, it's a lot of just playing everything slow until I just nail it. And I still try to learn different fiddle tunes or just weirder songs, or I'll try to write something in a different way, and then I'll try to work on it just till I can get it clean. And it's it's a lot of it's just driving your family nuts because you play it over and over and over again. But yeah, that was a big part of it, just playing everything really slow, and I think I've just got this mental block that I have to play it as clean as I possibly can, or it just drives me insane. It just bugs me.
Are you like
even
OCD?
Live, I am.
Okay.
About that, man. It's when I play live, it's there, and it bugs me the rest of the set. Every wrong note just kind of I build this little bank in my brain of, well, I messed up on this song, I hit a bad note on this one, and then it makes me work harder the next show. And I mean, I'm a little bit easier on myself than I used to be.
Good.
It got to the point where I just had tension in my arms, like I was so tense about, because Rob and I play a bunch. I mean, I was playing a lot, but that first year we played, 130 shows, and a lot of travel.
Well, you're both so good, man. I asked Rob this. I said, this is, you two playing has had to elevate both of your, I mean, you're both such like aficionados, man. It's gotta even like that 1%, getting that on a regular basis is probably what you guys are doing.
Well, I mean, I could speak for me. I mean, it definitely upped my game a lot, and I've always been a fan of Rob's. And so it definitely upped my playing, and I think he's got a similar thing. We've talked about that on the road, that, it's like we're very much perfectionists at our instruments, and it bugs us if we don't do what it bugs me if I don't do what I know that I should be able to do at this point,
Yeah.
If, even having an off night, and like I said, I've gotten a lot better on myself, that I can, allow me to have a bad moment and not beat myself up over it,
How are you with like other stuff? Are you just as demanding, or is it only more so with guitar?
To a certain extent, it has reared its head in other ways, but I think it's mostly guitar. It's definitely, I got all the doses of it on that side.
Well, man, but the truth is, how you do one thing is how you do everything. It's not like, I don't think too many people are going to be super like diligent about their business, but I mean, I'm sure it happens, but their whole personal life is in shambles. I mean, I'm sure that happens once in a while, but by and large, the standard of whatever that is you kind of apply it to everything, unless you got some
Exactly.
dysfunction
Yeah.
or something
If
like
you're,
that.
yeah.
Well,
I
I
mean,
mean,
if you got to drive, yeah, absolutely. If you feel like, and that definitely is the way with me. If you have a drive about it, then it carries over into other aspects of your life for sure.
yeah, it's probably like you're just caring about your daughter the same way. It's not like you're like, oh,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's usually goes like that. Hey, so I'm going to talk about some artists that you've worked with, and if you could tell me how you got the gig and maybe a fun, cool, or interesting story about working with them. Let's start with Johnny and June Carter Cash. That's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, man. So when I first started playing, one of the first places I played at was this place out in Hilton, Virginia called the Carter Family Fold, and it's still going, but it started out as just like a big barn, on this tiny little road, probably a dirt road at the time, but AP and Sara started it out there, and it's they would just have, you know, old time bands and bluegrass bands and very specific about what they had. They would never have like electric instruments. But so this place, it's kind of a cornerstone, and it's it's earned historical significance just for what it is, but also for the great music that they have. But when I was first starting out, I went out there and because of my love for the Carter family music, which came from Earl Scruggs' guitar playing, they picked up on how much I really respected that music. And so Jeanette Carter, who's AP and Sarah's daughter, was running the Carter Fold at the time, and she would let me play the intermissions. She would just let me come out there and play 15 minutes, during the band break.
And you were how old?
And so I was 10. I mean, I just started playing guitar.
Dude, that is crazy,
And
man.
so yeah, but she was just awesome, and she'd let me play. And then it was such a big deal whenever I got my first show out there, and I could bring my own band and do 2 sets, and that's one of my favorite places to go. And but I remember I got this call one day, and I guess it would have been in 2002, and it was Jeanette, and she said, "Are you going to be at the Carter Fold this Saturday night?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll be there." And she said, "Well, great. Johnny and June are coming, and I really want them to hear you." And it's like, "Oh, that'd be awesome." And so that Saturday night, I went out there, and I got there. She said, "Get there early, because it becomes a mad rush whenever Johnny Cash comes to town, because they would never announce it, but it would get out.
Right.
It's somebody would see Johnny in Gate City or somewhere in Virginia, and everybody'd be like, okay, well they're going to be at the Carter Fold tonight, and it would just be packed. And it's tiny road, you can't get, it's only one way in and one way out, and so traffic when Johnny Cash was there was just nuts. And so we got there at like 4:00 in the afternoon, and I remember that he had this black Lincoln that pulled in and opened the door, and it's Johnny Cash, and I got to help him and June up the stairs. And I just met them, and they were super nice. And but so they played their set, and during the intermission I got to play my couple songs. And the way the Carter Fold is set up is there's a pew on the back of the stage. I mean, it's literally like a church pew, and like all the remaining Carter family would sit out there pretty much for the whole show. And so you had Jeanette Carter and Dale Carter that would sit out there, and or Joe Carter, sorry, excuse me. So Jeanette and Joe, Johnny and June are sitting on this pew on the back with Jeanette and Joe, and so they've already done their set. And I remember, Johnny was sitting there eating some hot dogs, just on the stage. And I did this song called Storms Are on the Ocean, which is an old Carter family tune. And kind of unbeknownst to me, during my song, Johnny had asked for a microphone. And so when it came into the chorus, they had these monitors on the stage, and Johnny Cash's voice comes through those monitors, and so he was singing along with the song. And that was just, that I still remember it. Yeah. Still just thinking about it brings the hair on my arms up.
Yeah,
And,
that's pretty cool.
And so they were there the next couple weeks. They would come back to Carter Fold, and so I got to play with them the next week, and maybe the week after that, and then the following week was June's birthday, and so I remember it was in the middle of the week, and I just got home from school, and the phone rings, and my mom answers it, and she came into my room and said, somebody on the phone, and he said it's Johnny Cash. And so I answered the phone, and sure enough, it was him. And he wanted to know if I would play a couple of songs at June's birthday party.
Holy smoke. That was,
so,
was that a weird
yeah.
call? Like Johnny Cash is on the, that kind of had to be a little surreal, right?
That was definitely a strange call, and I don't know, I still can't remember how, I'm sure he got my number from Jeanette, but, and so I went out there and I played.
Imagine if you said to him, "Hey man, how'd you get my number?" What are you doing calling me? How funny is that?
Yeah, sorry, man. I'm tied up, man.
Yeah, before we go any further, how'd you get this number?
Oh, I don't appreciate it. Unsolicited calls.
That's right. Unsolicited calls from you, Johnny. Right on.
So, yeah, I mean, I went out there that Saturday night and played the Carter Fold with them. And or they did a set, and then I did my thing, and then Sunday was June's birthday party,
right?
And which sadly was her last birthday party, but it was at Mother Maybell's cabin, which is right beside of the Carter Fold, and it was just that was one of the most surreal moments of my life. And actually, yesterday was Tom T. Hall's birthday, and so last night I was a part of this Tom T. Hall, like an online virtual tribute to Tom T. And so I met Tom T. Hall at June Carter's birthday party.
That's amazing.
So thanks to Johnny Cash, Tom T. and Miss Dixie Hall recorded and produced my very first record when I was 11. And, but yeah, and so after that birthday party, I would get calls from them because they were going to do another record together. They were going to do a record together, with I'm assuming with Rick Rubin and all the American records that they were doing. And it was going to be John and June, and so they wanted me to play guitar on some of it. And so I would go to Mother Maybell's cabin and rehearse with them, and I did that a bunch of times. I mean, for a while, would go up there and
that's a hell of a drive, isn't it?
Yeah,
East Tennessee.
It was a couple hours. It was about an hour and 40 minutes, something like that. And so, but yeah, that was always an exciting drive. To drive to get to go hang with Johnny Cash and June, and sometimes he would be there. Most times he was there. But there was a couple times that it was just me and June and Carlene Carter, and I know there was some of those rehearsals that got taped, but I've not heard them. And I remember whenever it wasn't. I guess I can't remember at the end how it all came together, but they never got to work on that album.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a lot of material kind of rehearsed for it. Because they both passed away in 2003, and pretty close together, June, she passed away in May maybe, and then Johnny passed away in September. And then once she passed away, I talked to John one time after that. I talked to him, but that was really it, so yeah, I mean, but they were great people, man. They were just amazing. Everything you would really hope for them to be, and especially to me being an 11-year-old kid, they're super, super, super nice. And it was just such a thrill to get to pick the few times that I did get to pick with them,
That's how did you, so that must've been like really great validation in a sense, like, hey man, I'm doing the right, this feels good. This is like a great attaboy that you're kind of that's great.
It was definitely, because I mean, at that point, I've played a bunch of stuff, played a bunch of shows, but that was kind of the first that anybody wanted me to play on their record, and it was, it was
and it wasn't
Johnny
just
Cash,
anybody. It was freaking Johnny Cash.
Yes, that was definitely cool.
How did you? So you're kind of like the Derek Trucks of bluegrass, man, in a sense, because you started so young. How did you manage to keep yourself in check this whole time? Because, it would be real easy just to let all this stuff get to your head, and you're totally obviously nothing like you're like super, like I just want to play, was that ever an issue for you? Because I know sometimes for people it is, especially at such a young age, man. It's like, when everybody's telling you, how wonderful you are. Well, seriously, you need someone to be saying like, hey man, that's great, but you got to do the laundry tonight or something like that, Well, serious,
Man,
right?
It was, I don't think I ever really had that issue. I've never bought into my own stock any at all. I was never, I always felt like there was room for improvement. And so I felt like that, and I still feel that way. I still feel like I'm, my main goal is, to play guitar as well as I can. And I'm not there, and I don't feel like I'll ever be there.
Right.
So, keep at, and I feel like the people that I was around were like that. It's like one of the first people that I got to meet was, my hero, Earl Scruggs,
right,
thanks to Marty on the Opry. And, if he wasn't cocky, then there ain't no need for anybody else to be, or
Marty.
Johnny Cash was, exactly. If Marty is a human, as well as he can play every instrument and, write songs and sing, then I have no reason to be, to feel like I'm anything that special. And so I just always, just make, I like to keep my focus on, what can I do better?
That's great, man. I dig that. What can I do better? Yeah, that's a good way to, like, for anything, like being a dad, being a husband, I'm with you on that, man. 100%.
Yeah. I that's carried over a lot to being a dad. It's like I constantly feel like there's room for improvement instead of, sitting around and patting myself on the back for something,
Oh, you're always going to feel that way. It ain't going to change when they're 25, man. Trust me. Ricky Skaggs, how'd you connect with Ricky?
The Opry. That first time that I played the Opry, Ricky was on there, and so he was another one, man. That him and Earl invited me out quite a few times to sit in with the band, and Ricky's always been great. I mean, we've actually, Rob and I did a show with Ricky, I guess a couple years ago, and he's still the same as he has always been. Just a great guy, and definitely a musical hero. But the times I got to sit in with him were great, and I feel like that band, actually all of his bands, I mean his country bands, I feel like his guitar players have always been heroes to everybody in the guitar community.
Sure.
Ricky himself, he played great Telecaster, but he had Ray Flack that played guitar for a long time. That's one of my favorite Tele players. And then in the bluegrass side, he had Brian Sutton, who's
I had Brian on the show here, man. What a just a sweet, lovely guy, and he's funny as heck, man. Too. He's
man. He's one of my favorites, and just a great dude. And Clay Hess and now Jake Workman. It's just been a lineage of killer guitar players, and so on top of Ricky being an amazing musician and an inspirable.
Did you play with
guy,
Andy Leftwich?
Yeah. So Andy played on our records, and he was part of the band for a little bit. He actually, when we played Station Inn, man, he was there most of the times, and he's just monster musician on everything. He's one of those guys that
very talented.
If you have any ego at all, get in a room with Andy Leftwich, and it'll go away pretty quick. He's a monster.
He is, and he's a lovely guy too, man. I had him on the show a while back.
Just
really sweet, kind human being, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. He's one of the great people that I've got to meet, and obviously one of the best musicians in the world. So, Yeah, and I feel like Ricky's always had great bands. You know, he's always not only just great musicians, it's always been a great group of people. And I don't know if it's any correlation with him. You know, I've not been around him a whole bunch, but you know, I just know everybody that I've ever met in his band have just been, you know, great people on top of monsters.
Yeah. Well, I think he probably expects it, and he is willing to give to, you know, he's giving out what he's expecting. And
yeah,
you know.
exactly. I mean, it's leadership part of it.
Any other gigs that you want to talk about, or the stuff that you did that, you know, really nice memories for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of great experiences, you know, through life. I think this new gig with Rob has been one of the most fun things that I've ever done, musically, and you know, and it's definitely one of those things that, well, like I said, I mean, I've worked hard, but man, we've really hit the road hard. Yeah, we play a lot of shows and we do a lot of sessions, and it's inspired. Yeah, he's very inspirational, just from his career. Yeah, he's had a lot of great studio gigs, and just how great he is on his instrument. You know,
oh my God, talk about a guy who don't play wrong notes, man.
Exactly, and he's got that drive, man. I've, you know, been in a lot of hotels that have shared walls with Rob Ickes, and I hear his practice routine pretty often, you know, and
I'm sure
he has the drive of, you know, and he's one of those guys. I've always thought, you know, when I hear him one night, it's like, oh, that's the best I've ever heard anybody play. And then, yeah,
wow,
he'll blow it out of the water the next time. You know, he just, on his instrument, man, he just blows me away, you know. And so it's been great to work with him. And yeah, I mean, I've been very fortunate. There's been a lot of, well, you know, like we've worked with a lot of our heroes, you know, Taj Mahal. That's been one of the highlights of my entire life is getting to work with Taj. And we've, you know, become somewhat friends with him, and that's been cool, you know, to break that wall of, yeah. And that's kind of like with Earl. I make that connection with Taj, that, you know, getting to hang with Earl at his house was
that's
one of those
pretty
moments
cool.
that it was like, oh, this is cool, you know. And so yeah, I mean, it's been great. I've feel very fortunate, you know, no matter what happens from here on out. It's been great, and hopefully, you know, everything will continue upwards.
That's a great feeling when you feel like if it were to end, you've gotten so much more out of it than you ever expected. That it's a nice, like, great,
Yeah.
You know, there's no, if it, for whatever reason, no hard feelings, nothing, man. This is the best thing. That's nice.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way. And it's like I said, it's a great feeling to have. And, you know, I feel very fortunate for getting to be in the situation I was in, especially as a kid. You know, getting to be around those people was, it definitely shaped who I am, for sure.
Yeah, man. You don't forget to give yourself some credit there too, because what you did was pretty amazing at an age of 10. You know, you could say, yeah, you had something of a gift for it, but you didn't, that you took and, you know, you did something with that gift. You know, a lot of people have a gift and it's like, okay, but you really maximize and continue to do that. You know, there's a reason why at 10 and 11 years old you were playing with these people, you know, and why you're so talented now and you're playing with Rob and all these other things you're doing. So, I mean, make sure you pat yourself on the back.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Any low points, Trey, or, you know, I'm even reluctant to ask you this, you're so young, but any low points, dark periods you've had to deal with, and how'd you get through them?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been moments of doubt. I mean, there was some times. So like I said, I worked with this manager when I was kind of in high school, and a year or so after I got out of high school, and we kind of split paths at a certain point with no hard feelings and everything, and we still talk, you know. And he's a great dude, and yeah, he did a lot of great stuff for me in my career. But after that, I just, you know, because before that, my dad had been kind of booking shows and had been my quote unquote manager, you know.
Sure.
Even though I'm a little reluctant to even say that, because, you know, you automatically think of, you know, Britney Spears suing her dad or whatever. But he was never pushy. But
I don't get that sense at all, man. I mean, as hard as you're working, man, the joy that you have for what you do comes through as equally, I'm hearing that anyway, as your work ethic. So I'm not getting that sense at all.
All right. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely been, I've always felt like it's playing guitar is what makes me happy. So,
yeah.
But anyway, so I've always had kind of managers that have helped me along the way. But once I didn't have that, just figuring out what to do after the drop off. And,
how did you?
And there was a couple of years that I didn't really do a whole lot. I played some gigs. I had quite a little bit of a day job, and I hated it. I hated every moment of it. And that's when me and my wife, we'd talked about moving to Nashville before, but that's kind of when we decided that, and it was based a lot around that Blue Highway session, because right after that I got a call from Rob, and he just told me that I guess the night after I'd been there recording that song with Blue Highway, his my buddy that owned the studio had been showing him all these YouTube videos,
Oh, okay.
And so Rob calls me, and he says that he's a big fan, and if there's anything he can do to help me, he would love to, or just get together and pick. And so I asked him, I was like, I've been thinking about moving to Nashville. Should me and my wife make that call? And he was very, positive about it. Yeah, I think you would do great in Nashville. And I definitely, I think that'd be a smart move. And so I talked to my wife about it, and she started looking for jobs in Nashville, and applied for one like the same day, I'm pretty sure. And 2 weeks later we were here, so
right.
It happened quick.
Once you got here in Nashville, did things open up quickly, or did it take a while, or was there like a slow start? How did that fall out?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a slow start. It just takes a while because I knew some people, but and like I knew Marty, and Marty was very nice, especially when I first moved to town, but it it definitely took a little bit, especially to get on like the call list for sessions.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. What were some of your early, what was a session you did that really sort of opened things up for you?
I feel like when I started working at Compass Studios with Allison Brown, she has been great to call me for a lot of sessions, and that's been a great thing, because it's it's a major studio here in town, and they do a lot of great stuff. But I feel like, there's still, it's, Brian is kind of like Rob in that sense, where they're the 18 guys, they're who get the calls first. And so,
Sure.
you obviously have to hustle, and it seems like I've done a lot of electric guitar sessions and acoustic guitar sessions. I remember my first session at Compass, I played like a rhythm track on something, and then I took a mandolin break. And I'm a very okay mandolin player. It's like I'm, not the guy you should be calling for the mandolin stuff.
Right.
But I played, faked my way through a mandolin solo, and then after that, I've gotten some calls for other, it's like I say, especially electric guitar. It seems like I've done a lot of electric guitar sessions.
Who else have you played with in Nashville, guitar wise?
Let's see. I've had a lot of these sessions that I kind of log, that I forget about. But I know I'm on. I can't think of the name of the band at this point, but it was like a top 40 radio thing. I can't think of it, but
no worries, man. I was just curious if anybody.
It's like High Country or something, high something or other. And I'm bad about keeping up with like top.
No. Hey, man, not a problem at all. I know you got so many people moving into and out of your life. Believe me, I know it's hard to keep after all the names. Trust me.
But yeah, I've done a fair amount of sessions, and then a lot of it took a little bit to. I know I've heard Rob talk about, or maybe Aubrey Haney was telling me. I think it was Aubrey that. I think his mom used to keep up with like every session that he played on. where we don't really do that. You know, it's like, after we do a session, we just kind of forget about it.
Yeah.
But of course, Aubrey's played on, you know, everything from Alan Jackson records and, you know, like these huge, you know, I think he was on a James Taylor record, and, you know, so there's a lot more to keep up with than my, you know, my studio stuff. But I've, you know, and that's something I'm still trying to get into a little bit more, is doing session work. And that's, you know, Rob and I have talked about that with being on the road as much as we are. It's hard to keep
It's hard, man. Yeah.
Because you know, you miss a session, then they call somebody else. And so, you know. Go ahead. Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
It's no problem.
You have that's so funny. You have an English Siri. That's your voice is an English Siri.
Yeah, man. I'm going to turn this thing off. I didn't realize it was on.
Well, it's all good.
All right.
My wife's from there, so I have that like in reality.
All right.
She's from England, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. This is my wife's iPad, so she must like the English talking dude.
Telling you, man. Hey, tell me one or two things you did that at the time was out of your comfort zone, but you did it anyway and you got a lot out of it.
I will say that the electric guitar was out of my comfort zone, even doing, because I was very adamant when I picked up electric guitar that, because that's around the time that I started working with my manager. And I was doing acoustic guitar gigs, you know, I was doing bluegrass gigs and playing bluegrass festivals but I was trying to break out. I mean, I love bluegrass, but I was just wanting to do different things, you know. And
well, man, you expand your value as a player to yourself, to others. Yeah, I mean, it's smart.
And so I really wanted to do, you know, some bluegrass gigs, some electric guitar gigs that were more country leaned. And so that was difficult because, you know, some of these festivals, maybe that I'd played before, you know, we booked them as country shows the next year, and everybody was on board with it. Everybody knew it, but the crowd didn't necessarily know it, you know, and so there was a lot of backlash.
So it's like Bob Dylan picking up his electric.
It's like a very small scale Bob Dylan picking up electric.
It was a revolt.
And so that was definitely different. And I even started playing, you know, I had like a little rock and roll band that, you know, we played some, and
awesome.
You know, some blues, like a blues band. And, you know, so I got way into a lot of different music when I was, you know, a teenager. And I'm still kind of down that path, you know, of just trying to find some new music, you know. And I have a huge vinyl and CD collection, but it's all different stuff. And so when I got into all that different stuff, that was when I decided that I needed to play electric guitar more. And so that was definitely it was out of my comfort zone, but I really stuck with it. I don't know that if it happened today, that I would have been as adamant about it, but being a hard-headed teenager, I was just like, I'm doing this. I don't care if everybody leaves, which they did on an occasional. But I remember there was one gig that we played, had a nice big crowd, you know, and I mean, almost everybody left when we started playing.
Really? Because they were expecting bluegrass.
They were, you know, and that's bluegrass is one of those things where it, you know, definitely not to slam it, because I love bluegrass, but the fans are very particular about what they will accept and what they won't accept.
Interesting.
Which is great. You know, they know what they like. But drums, they definitely don't like drums, you know, and loud electric guitars. And I was having the time of my life, you know. It's like as soon as I plugged in and turned my amp up a little bit, that really, you know, resonated with me a lot. So, and I kind of felt the same way when I moved back to acoustic guitar, whenever Rob and I started working more together. It was weird how much I enjoyed going back to acoustic guitar whenever I was like sold on electric guitar at that point, you know.
But man, from a career standpoint, that's good. You've learned that you could go into that you could do what you want, basically. You know, everything's going to ebb and flow in life, and that's how it works anyway. But so you've learned that, hey man, now it's time for acoustic again, you know, and then you can go back to do electric or whatever, you know.
Exactly. I mean, I think that way with my records, you know. It's like I'm hoping to do a solo record, and I've had a hard time nailing down exactly what I want to do, because, you know, it's like part of me, I would like to do a bluegrass record again. Part of it is like full on electric stuff, which is kind of how I'm leaning towards this. The stuff I've been writing definitely has a country. I mean, when I write, it comes out like a country song regardless, or at least a traditional style country song. And so, I mean, but it's definitely a thing that I have to work on, is keeping myself concentrated on one path for a album. And I feel like Rob and I kind of have that similar thing where we're listening to so many different types of music, and we're so inspired by so many different types of music that, I mean, sometimes in our records, it's we really had to have a discussion a couple years ago. It's like, well, we need to narrow it down to, let's not have all the music that we listen to on this record, because we would throw the Western swing tune and a, jazzy tune and some blues and country and bluegrass and but yeah, I mean, it's cool to be into different stuff, in my opinion. So,
Yeah, and I think you guys did it smart, because like a lot of guitarists will make a record and it's more like a business card. It's like, hey, here's a flamenco tune, here's a Van Halen tune, here's a blue. The problem with that is it's really hard to marshal a following.
Yeah.
Every band has to have their thing, and that's what, and you guys now over 3 albums, you've really successfully built that together.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't step out of it for it. Yeah, right. It's deliberate. It's not like random, like, oh, we just figured it was just, we picked whatever. No, you have to deliberately, define who you guys are as a unit. And then, you can play whatever you want, but overall you've got to have that vibe, because this is the, I mean, unless like you're David Bowie or Neil Young, that, they could afford to step out, but that's not reality for 99%.
Well, I mean, I love those type of, well, it's like, I love that the last Bowie record, because I feel like it's all over the map. And I love that. But I feel like in our music, there's a lot of inspiration that comes from Tony Rice, where just not only his guitar playing, but I feel like he had just such a great business sense in that, he did these jazz influenced records, but all that stuff was on one record. It's not, when he did Cold on the Shoulder, it was more, I don't know, just, it was all focused. You could tell that it was a focused record. And then when he did, all these other things, Mar West and the jazz records, he didn't throw a bluegrass record or bluegrass song right in the middle of it. And so,
but he's like a David Bowie. I mean, at his level, he's got that that leverage that he could afford to do that. Exactly, but you guys be able to do the same thing 4 or 5 more. When you got 2 more albums under the, I don't see any reason why you can't.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely that's been a big conversation about when we decide to start a record now, where it used to maybe not be, like when we did Country Blues, we just went in the studio, especially that first record. I mean, we didn't talk about anything. We just went and called tunes,
Interesting.
And the 13 that are on we probably did 17 songs and then narrowed it down to 13.
That's pretty good. And you only recorded.
So I mean, it's
17,
World Full of Blues, we did have a producer on that, and I felt like that helped a lot. We had a legendary producer here in Nashville. I mean, Brent Mayer, he's produced tons of stuff from everything from, he did a Ray Charles record and all the we did Sly and the Family Stone's first record. I didn't know that, but he was telling us that
that's crazy.
He was an engineer on several tracks on the Sly and the Family Stone record, and all of the Tina Turner and Ike Turner, those records, and then came back and did all the Judd stuff in the 80s and some Merle and Willie Nelson, and so he's great, and he really helped hone in on the sound on World Full of Blues. It's just like, I feel like that's our most focused record to date for sure. But that's a whole nother side of it that I'd never thought of before this. It's like, I always just thought, hey, you just do what you do, you put it on a record, and if people like it, then great. If not, so what, but there's a little bit more goes into it than that.
Well, it's like you said, man, every step of the ladder, you get exposed to more things in the business part of it, and you got to incorporate that into the what feels right from a playing standpoint, man. That's good.
Exactly.
Hey, Is there anybody that you haven't played with yet that you'd like to?
Oh,
Let's put it out
I mean,
to the universe right now, man.
The obvious biggies, like if David Gilmour ever gives me a call, I'll be pretty thrilled about that.
Dude, me and you both. Yeah.
But in my world, in the bluegrass and acoustic world, I'd love to pick a tune with Norman Blake, or Tony. I mean, I've met Tony.
I was wondering about that.
And Tony's great. He was amazing. And I met him when I was probably 13, and got to hang backstage with him. He let me play his guitar, but I never got to play with him. So that would be cool to pick a few tunes with him, or a lot of electric guitar heroes. I'd love to pick with Warren Haynes, or John Schofield, or or Stevie Wonder. If Stevie Wonder wants to give me a call, that'd be cool too.
Yeah, man. Very cool. So let's talk about guitars now, man. What's your go-to guitar right now, and what other two would round out your top three?
Oh man, my go-to one right now has been I've got this pre-war company guitar. It's a company out of North Carolina, Hillsborough, North Carolina, and they build pre-war guitar spec guitars, and I've got like a D18.
That's the model that they replicated.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they do D28s, and they even do some pre-war Gibson models, and they're not necessarily copies, but they do their own things with them. But I mean that the pre-war Dread that I have, I mean, I used it on all of the World Full of Blues record, and it was, I think, less than a week old at that point. I mean, it was brand new, and our producer argued with me that it wasn't a new guitar. I mean, it obviously it looks like an old guitar. They didn't relic it. They do relic some of their guitars, but this one, just the color of it, it looks like an old guitar, but it sounds like an old guitar. I mean, it when I first played it over at mic, I mean, it sounded like I brought a 38 D18 into the studio.
Wow, that's great.
So yeah, I love that guitar a lot. And then I've got a Bourgeois, a Slope D35 that is based on a Gibson model, but it's a little wider, so it's kind of like a mix of a J35 and a D18 kind of.
Okay.
I think it's got the width of a D18, but it's kind of the body shape of a J35, and I love that guitar. And then probably my favorite guitar that I own, which is probably the most difficult one to play, but it's a 54 D28. And wow. I've had that one since I was a kid.
How'd you get that?
So I met the guy that owned it. Actually, this band that I got to sit in with a bunch when I was a kid, Paul Williams and the Victory Trio, is a gospel band. But Paul Williams used to play mandolin in Jimmy Martin's band.
Okay.
And so his guitar player had this guitar, and he had, just recently bought it. And I think he bought it from the original owner. And so whenever I played it at a jam session, and I think I just like jokingly said, "Man, I'd love to have this guitar. If you ever, want to sell it, let me know." And so a couple weeks after that, Paul Williams and the band just kind of split, and this guy just decided he didn't want to play guitar anymore. And so he sold everything that he had, like sold all of his guitars, including this 54 D28. And so he called my dad and said that he was going to sell it. And at that time, they were worth a lot, but not anything like they are now. Yeah. And this one, it's had a bunch of cracks it's got a bunch of cracks in the back of it, and it's been worn, man. It's, whoever played it before him it's been played. And so anyway, so I'd been playing a bunch of shows, and being a 12 or 13-year-old kid, I think I had bought a 66 D35, and which, was an okay guitar, but it was, ended up selling it. And then my dad helped me get this D28, and I love it, man. It's the most cantankerous guitar that I've ever played. I mean, like one day it'll just play great, just like a
dream. And I've heard that about these old guitars. They kind of get set in their ways. It's just weird. Like I'll bring it to a session. I played it on this great Texas songwriter, Jason Eady. Rob and I played on his record, I Travel On, a couple years ago, and I played the 54 on every track on that record. And it's funny to me, man, when I listen back to it, I can tell the different days that we recorded the different songs because it almost sounds like a totally different guitar on different days.
Wow, that's got to be a little frustrating, no?
It's a little frustrating, but I've learned to just go with it and whatever comes out of it. But I'll always bring a backup guitar to a session. Yeah, it's like I'll bring it. But I've heard these, and especially 50s and 60s Martins. Obviously, the earlier 50s are the more sought after ones, but they can be a little unruly every now and then. So it's definitely, that one's a learning curve of the guitar. But I love playing it for that reason. I like the challenge every now and then.
That's cool, man. What about electric? What do you usually play?
So I have a couple different electrics that I really like. My main one is a Telly that was built by a friend of mine out in East Tennessee. This guy Chuck Tipton out in Bristol. He built it. And it's just like a 52 spec Telly, huge neck on it. And
are you a big guy?
That. Huh?
Are you a big guy?
Yeah. I mean, I like the bigger the necks, the better. And it's funny, my hands aren't that big. I don't know why I like those bigger neck guitars better. But even on acoustic, this pre-war I've got, I had them put a boat neck or this huge, like half a baseball bat pretty much on that guitar.
Wow.
And but I love it. I don't know. I have no, and I actually prefer 1 3/4 inch nut widths, which are a little bit wider.
Yeah.
And so I have no clue why that feels better to my hand, but and even like I wanted a Les Paul, and so I got a 58 reissue Les Paul.
I was gonna say you probably got the 50s, yeah.
Yeah, 58 because it's got that huge.
It's
neck
a thick neck, yeah.
And so that one was my main guitar. When I would play anything that wasn't country,
sure,
I'd switch over to that. And then I've got a Clapton Strat that I've Gilmoreized. And
what'd you do to it? We said Gilmore.
So I didn't really do anything different. I love the Clapton Strats. I just love the even though it's just a little wooden block, I love the set bridge on it. I never could get used to a floating bridge, and I never really used the whammy anyway. So I used it a couple times when I first had a Strat, and it just wasn't for me. I like a Bigsby, but not a whammy on a Strat for some reason. And but I like that, and so I like the pickups in some of the earlier 2000s Clapton Strats. I like those a lot. And so the one I have, I think it's like a 2002, and basically I just put a black guard on it and a little short trim arm that doesn't do anything. But I was going to do the
Gilmore has this little. I got it right here. I couldn't. I bought it. I try to get, it's really weird to work with it.
It looks odd too, but I love it. And so really, I thought about going the whole Gilmore pickup way, but when I got this Strat, I like the pickup so much in it that I just kept. And then I know it's got the boost and stuff. Actually, on the country blues, I didn't use this one, but I used a Strat just like it, a Clapton Strat on all the stuff. And it just, to me, with that on the bridge pickup with the those boosts on, just sound like a huge Telecaster. And so I like that a lot. And so I like that Strat. And then I've got a B-Bender Telly that Gene Parsons has been making with a guy out in California, Lee Ryder. I think they're just called string bender musical instruments, but it's a great Telly, man. Just all in all, it sounds great. And then I love the B-Bender.
Yeah, I bet.
That's cool to use.
That's very cool, man. You got some nice guitars.
I have less guitars than I used to have. It can become addicting.
But they're all real good quality instruments you got, and they're all like as you went through each one, it has a deliberate, specific purpose. Which, hey, man, that's I think that's you got plenty of time to buy guitars, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me some of your favorite musicians you've enjoyed playing with.
Oh man, Earl would be at the top of the list. That was huge, and of course, Johnny Cash and June. Daryl Scott is one of my big heroes, and got to play with him, and Marty. Loved everything Marty Stewart's ever done. We've touched on a lot of Ricky.
Yeah.
Loved getting to play with Ricky, and it was fun getting to play with Charlie Daniels. A few times I got to play with him. He was one of the most high energy people I've ever been around. Which was, that was just totally, well, the manager that I had in high school is the one that hooked that all up. Which was another weird, it was just like, I played for the president
how did
one time.
How did that come about?
I still don't really know. I played, I got hired to play at a political rally, which, I was a 16-year-old kid, or maybe younger than that. And they wouldn't tell us anything about it. And come to find out it was for it wasn't even a rally. It was just like Laura Bush had came to Kingsport, Tennessee, and they needed music, before. Sure. And so I played it. And like I said, didn't really know anything about it before we got there. And then as soon as you get there, you get sniffed by the bomb.
Did they check you out beforehand? Did they?
Did.
Yeah,
they did. They obviously had to, run background. And then, of course, me being a kid, I don't know what they had to do with that. But she was super nice, and she actually booked me for other stuff that she did. Like,
did she come over to you directly? Hey, man, here's my number.
Exactly. It was weird. I don't know. So my manager, hooked all these things up, and then we got the call that he's like, it was for the president's dinner, and I still don't know how it happened. It's just, it was so random that when I was 17, I got to take a private tour of the White House, and that was cool. And
that's really cool, man.
Got to go out to DC and hang out for a little bit, but that was the only thing. I played that one gig there, but there were several, like in 2007, several shows that I played that Charlie Daniels was on, and he was just always super cool. And the first time I met him, like right out of the gate, he wanted to talk about football, and I'm kind of a sports guy. It's like I like basketball and baseball, but I never really kept up with football that much. And so I was totally out.
That's pretty random that Charlie Daniels wants to talk about football on the gig.
It was, but he's, like I say, he's just super high energy. And, but we hit it off, and I especially loved getting to hang with his band. Cause he has a lot of the same guys that he's had, since the 70s.
That's amazing, man.
So got to hang with his guitar player, and,
who's his guitar player at that time? Who was that? Man,
I was trying to think of his name, and he had two guitar players. He had one that played like an Ernie Ball Music Man that had an acoustic pickup in it. I remember it sounded great. I don't know what he was doing, but I can't remember either of them's name. And then the other guy was the one that played with him for forever, and he had the original Strat that he played on basically everything. And
that's cool.
And got to play that guitar, which was like a 54 Sunburst Strat.
That's cool, man.
So it had the mojo just from you could tell I don't know if he bought it, if he was like the second owner or whatever, but he had it for all these years. And so I love those guitars that have been played. It's like this 54. I mean, there's just something about them. You can tell somebody's played them, that those always sound better than even if they don't, they always, to my ears, they always sound better than the ones that just been under the bed,
Sure, man.
Years.
Did were you getting texts from Laura Bush? Trey, it's Laura. Trey, it's Laura. Be there at 7:30.
Had some unsolicited phone calls on block number. No, how'd
you get this number?
So my manager, like I said, he was hooking all this stuff up, and he did a lot of great stuff. But that was just totally, happenstance.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty funny, man.
In my hometown.
How do you feel about that? Like, because And if you don't have to talk about this, I was just curious because I've talked to certain people like they don't want to affiliate with anything because professionally, man, you're going to lose half your audience, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't old enough to vote at the time.
Oh, you're a kid.
So
no. I'm just curious, like now, how do you feel about, obviously you're
now
a child.
I would, and I wouldn't want to do it, especially now.
Oh God, yeah. You can't even, you got to be careful. Now you don't even need to like affiliate with a party. You just have to maybe like, allude to something and then it's on like Blabbermouth or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think Rob and I, we have a lot of the same opinions on politics and everything. And and I feel like a lot of that was on our World Full of Blues record. We were pretty political for what it is. We didn't cram it down anybody's throat or anything. But yeah, I mean that's probably, and we had a lot of discussions about that because I mean you don't want to be, I'm not going to run for political office, so I want to play guitar. So, but I do have strong opinions. It's like I have these opinions, and I want to be able to voice them. But it's hard to figure out how to do that. You have to really tiptoe, and I feel like you have to be strategic about it.
Like you want to make a statement without necessarily aligning that with somebody else. It's just you, and that's sometimes hard to do. I think,
it is. I mean, it's hard to. And like I said, I mean, I feel like even the title track "World Full of Blues" was very political, and it came out of Rob and I writing it. We wrote it a couple years ago, just frustrated with the world, pretty much. And I mean, there's probably 20 verses that we had to leave out, because it just came so naturally, just from the frustration. And so I mean, I don't think that, and like I said, I know it was a little bit different time then, but really politics, when I was doing those shows, it never came across as anything really political. The thing I did the only time that I got to meet Dick Cheney was it was basically a fundraiser for veterans. And so I did that, and that was around the same time. So I would have been 17. And so I always looked at those as, instead of being political, just as, something for the doing something that I could do for the veterans, that even though it was definitely not,
Well, I think that's a different scenario too, Trey. That's not like you align, even if it was a Republican thing, that's not like you said, hey man, I want to go hang out with these, that's like you got hired as a sideman for a gig.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's not like, but it's weird. There's always, most people that I talk to are like, avoid any kind, just because it's such a polarized topic, whatever side of the fence you're on. I don't think it even matters because people are just going to, I don't understand this need to like, man, I've been with my wife 28 years almost. Trust me, we haven't agreed on everything, but we haven't killed each other over it either. It's okay. We disagree. It's, it's become so weird. Like you can't disagree about anything. I don't get, like, how do you have relationships with anybody? Like you only have relationships with people you agree with everything on. I mean, you must not talk about much because,
well, I mean, just like that song we did. And I feel like it's very tame for a political leaning song. We're not shoving anything down anybody's throat. We might be alluding to something that if you pick up on, then fine. Yeah. But we've had some, not much, but we've had a couple of, people come out and very opinionated. I had an email, when we first put the video up, just right. Of, people, of this one guy that was very not happy with it, and it's like, well, what are you going to do? It's not what we do normally. 98% of our songs are not this way. It's just the one song that, and we felt strongly about it. We felt like we needed to include it. And we had that conversation with our producer. It's like, we want to do this song, and he was all aboard for it. He never one time. And actually, he brought it up before we did that we needed to include it on the record. So, but we were.
Hey man, this is what people have been doing in music since the '60s, is sharing their viewpoints. You know, if you can't do that, what the hell, man? You know.
Exactly. So but like I say, it's not something that we make a habit of. Just, but you know,
you don't lead. You don't lead with that.
Exactly, and
I totally
we're both, like I say, opinionated, and so it comes out every now and then.
Good, man. Good, do what you got to do. Tell me your top 3 desert island discs, just for this minute.
For this minute would have to be been listening to Kind of Blue a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a biggie for me. I picked up that record because of Tony. You know, I saw Tony Rice at the Down Home in Johnson City, Tennessee, and he kicked it off with a Jimmy Martin tune, and the second song he played was My Favorite Things. At the end of it, he said, "This is a John Coltrane song," and it was like, you know, 20-minute version of it, and he just absolutely killed it. But I remembered, okay, I need to go buy some John Coltrane, and I think at the time I went to Circuit City because my local record store they didn't have any John Coltrane for some reason. So of course they looked at me like I was an idiot when I asked if they had any John Coltrane CDs, and that Kind of Blue. It was like I don't know if it was what anniversary it was. It was the 40th. I think it might have been that they did like this deluxe edition, and you know the album covers got John's name on it, and so for some reason that was sitting right in the front, and I saw it and I picked it up and I took it home and I listened to it and I thought it sucked, and I was just like, this, you know, how did Tony get anything out of this? It doesn't have any guitar on it. But the more I listened to it, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Just like out of the blue one day, I listened to it and it totally changed my life. And so that's a biggie. And then I would have to say, Wish You Were Here. I like, you know,
oh hell yeah,
that Shine On You Crazy Diamond, the Gilmore's playing on that is just, you know, that kills me every time.
It's a beautiful song, man.
Yeah, man, love all that record, and then, oh man, I guess I would have to pick one of Tony's. He did a record called Native American that I love. That's probably that'll have to be my third pick.
I'm gonna check that one out.
Yeah, it's great, man. I feel like it's loose in the best way possible. Like you can tell they went in the studio and just played music. You know, it's very not a lot of going back and punching, not a lot of edits, you know.
Amazing that they could play at that level and not have a lot of edits, isn't it, man?
I know, man. I heard just some stories of, you know, Tony would just go in there, and I think he was way into the jazz mentality at that point of, you know, we're going to play this. And well, that's one of the things I love about the Kind of Blue the version I've got, because it's got a lot of the studio. Yeah, a lot of the conversations that were happening in the studio, and I feel like there was a lot of that. Yeah, it's like, we're going to do this one time, and the great bluegrass stuff was like that. I mean, you know, you listen to that "Will the Circle Be Unbroken" record, and the first song, the Roy Acuff song, basically blessing them out, letting them know that, yeah, we're going to do this one time. If we have to do it any more than one time, we're going to lose everything. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I like those records where they talk. You hear kind of like behind the scenes. It's fun. It's like breaking the fourth wall, sort of, you know.
It is, yeah.
Hey, tell me the best decision you've made so far.
Oh man, I'll have to, you know, be cliche about it, but I'll say, you know, marrying my wife was definitely the best decision. I think, you know, we've from everything, you know, from my life, everything that's been good in it, you know, musically or whatever has been, you know, spawned out of that relationship. So
congratulations, right on.
I'd say that.
Good, man. I hope you have many, many more years like that. Something about yourself people might be surprised to hear or find a little odd.
I had to think hard about this one. I will say that on top of guitar collecting, I collect Air Jordan sneakers.
Do you really? Wow.
I do.
That's wild. So are you on like the early release? Like when Nike comes out, you're like first day, you're buying them.
Oh yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. I mean, especially with this, the Last Dance documentary.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I was way into Jordan as a kid. I was born in 1990. So, by 97, I had all the jerseys and, just that's carried over into adult life. Cause I don't think my parents ever bought the shoes, they were always, and so now that I'm an adult, I can buy guitars and Jordan
and shoes. Yeah, man. That's really like the whole thing with kicks is like, it's a whole like niche. It's a massive niche now. I mean, like, there are people that make their living buying and selling these shoes now, man. It's pretty prolific.
I totally never knew this world existed until a couple years ago. And I feel it's helped with my guitar collecting, because that was where I was focusing a lot of time a couple years ago, was just buying and selling guitars or trading guitars, or just trying to find, I don't feel like I was that way with acoustics that much, but electrics was really, those are addicting, because there's so many different, things.
And there's always somebody that wants one. There's always someone that wants yours. Yeah.
So when I first got into the Jordan stuff, was I had no idea it existed out there, and so it's been it gets Rob has talked about, there was one day on the road that I yelled at my phone basically all day because it was a release day. So
and you could, man, it was really interesting. My younger son, who's like a year younger than you, he was really into kicks for a long time. And we were in this, my wife and I were in New York one day, and I saw a store it was like in an exclusive area down in like a boutique area. And I said, let's go in here because I said, I want to take pictures, send them to my son. I couldn't believe, I mean, this was like, it could have been like high end, Oscar de la Renta purses, man. And it was walls and walls of them. I was blown away how much money people were spending on these things, man. Like the
resale of some of these things are just nuts. Like, I forget where we were, but I went into one of those shops. Might have been in Florida that they had a shop. It was like a boutique shop, and of course they wrapped the shoes up with some kind of saran wrap or something, and they had them anywhere from $1,000 plus. Yeah, there's a lot of like $1,000 plus.
Yeah,
like holy crap! I mean, I'm not that extreme. I'll actually walk in mine.
Oh, you buy them and man, that's like a guitar. I'd have a hard time buying a guitar and like just sticking it here and never, I want to.
I'm that way, man. I'm not gonna buy something and put it up. And
what do you do with it? What kind of memory do you have of it then? Like, oh man, I remember that thing sat on my. We collected so much dust. It was awesome. I mean, like, what are you gonna do with that thing? You're gonna say, yeah, man, I wore it. It felt great. I felt like $1 million. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. You're the first guy. That's a new something new. Air Jordans, man. That's awesome. Good for you. Hey, tell me the most important thing your dad taught you.
Man, I gotta say the drive. He's just a workaholic. He's always working. Like, he's one of those people that gets off work and then, so he's a mechanic.
That's a tough
he's
job.
Like shop foreman at works for the highway department in East Tennessee, and it's very, like I said, a very physical job, and
especially in that heat, man. It is.
Yeah, and so he'd be one of those guys that would work, a 10-hour day and then come home, and he had a garage at our house, and he'd work on people's cars, when he got home. And I think he's loved it like I love guitars. He loved cars, and he was into that. I've just heard stories of him being into, buying and selling old Chevelles, or just all kinds of different
Chevelles. Those are badass cars, man.
Yeah, man. He said he had a '66. So he's had some cool cars, but he loves that part of it. And now he's close to retirement age, so I'm not sure what he's going to do after that. He'll have to find something else to get fired up about. But yeah, I think that drive, is definitely came from him.
What are you going to do if he says, Trey, I've been thinking about this. I want to get back into managing you.
I told Rob, man, if we ever get a bus, he'd probably make a good bus driver.
There you go, man.
Good tour bus driver.
How about your mom? Most important thing she taught you?
Oh man, I learned a lot from my mom and my mom's dad. My granddad. And I feel like a lot of his ways. I spent a lot of time with him, and I feel like a lot of his ways are the same as hers. Just patience and just a lot of how to treat people and kindness and both of my parents. They were great role model or are great role models, and like I said, I owe them a lot for spending hours and hours and hours in the car, taking me around. I think they both had a good amount of patience, and they still are very supportive of my music and what I do. They're very supportive of it. So I'm
sure they're proud as hell of you, man. You've done a lot.
Yeah, they've been they're great. So
they'll be listening to this. You guys did a great job, so they'll be listening to this, I'm sure. 2 more questions, Trey. Toughest decision you had to make or most difficult thing you had to do?
Oh man, toughest decision I had to make was probably the years that I didn't play music full time. And I think they've been great. Looking back on them, they definitely sucked when I was in the moment.
Sure.
But I think I needed that, because it's all I've ever done. I've been playing guitar since I was 10. And so music has been a huge part of my life. It's been a huge chunk of my life for, almost 20 years now. And even before that, so I definitely think it helped to take that moment now that I'm out of it to step back and realize how important that it is and was to me. And but it was tough, and it was a tough decision. And so that was a big one.
You know what? In 20 years, you'll be sitting back and you'll say, I've had so much gratitude that I've been allowed to do this, that I've been able to do this for my life. And I bet you that a lot of that, when you're saying that, you'll be thinking about, man, I could have been in that job that I was in for 2 years, whatever that was, so that's cool.
I mean, I feel very, very lucky to, I've talked to Rob about this. I feel like we're very lucky to be able to do this,
Yeah.
And especially, right now with what's going on with, most of our shows have kind of been postponed till next year.
Any word on when things are coming back for you guys, at least?
Not really. I mean, everything up until August at this point is kind of gone until next year. But even then, I can't see it. It's maybe some of the smaller clubs or whatever, but a lot of the stuff we had on the books were festivals and
all the festivals are canceled, right?
We had a couple of tours with Tommy Emmanuel coming up, and
that's too bad.
A couple with Taj Mahal, and so it's bigger places, and I just can't see it happening. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope that it bounces back.
I hope
quick.
so too. I don't.
But
very weird. It's weird. They opened the gym here this week, and I haven't gone back because I just want to wait, hit the pause button for a week or so to see. It's not like it disappeared. I don't know. It's not like it disappeared. I don't think so.
I don't know either, man. Me and my wife and my daughter have been here, for 2 months now.
Yeah.
And this week, I think this weekend we're going to go visit some family. But this is the first time we've kind of left our place. But everything's kind of opened up here in Nashville. And they're actually having some shows at the Station Inn.
Okay.
Heard that they're returning at half capacity in June and full capacity in July. So
they're going to be packed.
I don't know.
People
it's
be
very
desperate to see.
It's a very closed space.
Yeah.
It's a little. I don't know how I feel about it. But hopefully everything goes well.
Yeah, man. I'm fingers crossed. And last question, Trey. What's the most important lesson that life has taught you so far?
Oh man, I just think that keeping your nose at the grindstone, and just having goals has been a big thing for me. And like I say, just definitely not getting caught up in your own self too much. I think that being a dad has brought a lot of that, of taking time to slow down a little bit, and not being afraid to reassess everything every now and then, because I feel like I have to keep myself in check, to just with everything, with music and just everything in life, so I'm still working on patience and all that good stuff and all that comes with it.
Me and you both, brother. Hey, listen, thank you so much. I'm really glad I got the opportunity to connect with you. I will tell everybody, Trey Hensley is a wonderful, wonderful guitar player, man. He's so talented, this guy. I mean, I hate to sound like an old man, but he's 29, and this guy is going to have, if he isn't like recognized in the next 10 years as one of the top guitar players out there, I'd be shocked. He's really a talented guy, and he works his butt off at it. Check out Trey's music. It's at Trey Hensley. It's TreyHensley, TreyHensley.com. Check out all the stuff him and Rob Ickes have done. I mean, they have 3 records out. Just amazing. It's really just incredible talent these guys both have. It's not common that you get people of such talent together playing like that. The 3 records are Before the Sun Goes Down, The Country Blues, and last year's World Full of Blues. And you can find everything, links on to connect with Trey on TreyHensley.com. He's on Facebook and Instagram, so if you like his page and follow him on Instagram, that'll be great. He's under Trey, A as in Alpha, Hensley. On YouTube, it's Trey Hensley, so subscribe to his YouTube channel. Also, because of COVID, he has some time, and he's now he's open to doing lessons, and he's been doing lessons. So here's the deal. You got to be at least an intermediate guitar player to really get the best out of him. And the best way to connect with him is go to the Facebook page. Is that you wanted the Facebook page? His Facebook page, Trey A. Hensley, and then message him?
Facebook message would be great.
Okay, so do that, and just give him, hey, I heard you on the show or whatever, and I like your music, or just give him some idea what you're looking for, so he can come back and say, hey, man, that sounds great. It's a really good fit. I'd like to help you, or man, it's probably not a fit, and here's why. But just, you don't have to write an encyclopedia, but just give him a couple of sentences. And I think that's it. Anything else that I forgot or that I left out or that you want to mention?
I don't think so, man. But thanks again for having me on, Craig. This has been great, and I love the show, and yeah, thrilled to be on here, man.
Thank you, man. Likewise, and you will be on again. I promise you that, man. Hang on, let me wrap this up, and then you and I'll chat.
All right.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels with your friends. Thanks very much to Trey Hensley to come on the show. Again, check out Trey's music, especially the stuff he's got going on with him and Rob Ickes. You can find everything on his website, TreyHensley.com. Facebook and Instagram, Trey A. Hensley, and YouTube. Subscribe to his YouTube channel at Trey Hensley. And lessons, again, intermediate pickers, and message him on Facebook. And Jason, thanks again for the hookup. Most important, remember, especially nowadays, man, remember that happiness really is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I am out. Trey, thank you so much, man.
Hey, thanks, Craig.